A very warm welcome to today's legal marketing talk about the power of networking in 2025. We are thrilled to kick off the new year with a fantastic guest, and I hope you all had a wonderful start to 2025. And I wish, of course, all of you an excellent year ahead. My name is Tobias Steinemann. I am a strategic legal marketing consultant, and I will be your host for today's talk. But before I introduce our main act today, just a few words about the legal marketing talk. Our idea for these talks is really to inspire legal professionals to design their own personal marketing strategies, to successfully develop their own business case, and to find marketing techniques that they do really feel comfortable with. The important thing is this is not meant to be a lecture, especially not from my side. It is a space for peers, for lawyers and other professionals to share their marketing experiences, things that have worked and maybe even things that haven't worked. Bear in mind, this is a live format, so you can actually participate in this talk. Use the chat on the platform from which you are joining us for your questions and your comments. We will do our best to pick up as many of your questions as possible towards the end of our talk. Long story short, it is now time for me to introduce our main act, our special guest. I'm very happy to welcome Kato Aerts for our guest for today's talk.
Hello, very happy to be here.
Kato, it's great to have you here with us. I assume that most of the guys watching and listening actually already know you, but for the benefit of those who don't, here's a quick introduction to Kato. She's a Belgian employment lawyer and a partner at Lydian, where, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you will be celebrating your 10-year anniversary this year. So that's already one opportunity for a nice party in 2025. And even more important for today's talk, at least, Kato is really the leader of young lawyers around the globe. So last year she was elected as president of AIJA, quite likely the most fun international association for young lawyers. And Kato, is really a big pleasure to have you here with us.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I know we do have many AIJA members online, probably not yet, but they will drop in across this talk. But for those in the audience who have not heard of AIJA or not know the association too well, could you maybe give us a quick introduction to AIJA? I'm sure as president you probably have this pitch perfected by now.
Yeah, exactly. I've done it a few times. So AIJA is the only global association dedicated to young lawyers. And we have about 20 in-person events a year. And we also organize many online events. And our aim really is to connect and empower young lawyers wherever they are in the world, so that they can learn from each other, that they can build a network and have a head start to their career. So what sets AIJA apart is really the focus on young. Young is defined by our bylaws as under 45, which I think is a fairly large definition by any means. And I think it's a good one too, because if you're still a lawyer by the age of 45, you're likely to stay in law practice. The second thing that sets us apart is we're truly global. So we do have a lot of members in Europe, but we have invested a lot in trying to expand our wings across the globe and making sure that AIJA is accessible to young lawyers wherever they are in the world.
And it's a great association, obviously, because you and we did meet at AIJA. I think it was 2016 at the Congress in Rome at a wonderful thing called the Home Hospitality Dinner. So that gave us an opportunity to meet. And now, almost 10 years later, we're here. So a great thing that did happen. How have these first few months as a president? It's obviously not something that everybody gets to experience, but for you as a president over the last few months, how was this initial period as president for you?
Oh, it's been an amazing ride so far. I really have to say that I'm so happy that I took on this adventure, and I considered it a privilege to serve this association in this role because, as you said already, it's the most known, most fun, most capable association for young lawyers across the world. So to be able to lead that is really a privilege and a pleasure. And I guess my role as a president, it for me at least, it falls down into two components. So on the one side, it's representing the association, both internally and externally, which is a fantastic opportunity, really, to meet so many interesting people. It's incredible, the people I've met over the last couple of months already. And then on the other hand, it's also managing the association. So that's a bit how our association is structured. And as a president and all of the other members of the bureau, so the Secretary General, the Treasurer, the immediate past president, and the Vice President are very involved in daily operations, which is also actually a very thrilling task because our association is filled with very talented members. We have a very dedicated and talented team in Brussels as well. So that's an important part of it as well.
A lot of people involved that as a participant you not always think about and that you don't see too often. So obviously all of this needs to be organized as well. How much time would you say and effort is it for you to fulfill this role as you currently do?
Well, to be honest, it was a bit of a black box because when I, put in my candidacy, I spoke to a lot of people, but you don't really know it until you know it. And I compare it often with having kids. Like you think you're up for it and you want to do it, and you know it's going to be a lot of work. And it's a bit similar in that sense that I could not have grasped how much hours I actually spent on it. But it's a very fun way to combine that with law practice because it's very different work. So in terms of hours and time spent, it really feels like a second job right now. And that's also because I take it on fully and I enjoy it and I spend as much time as I can with the association.
Thanks. So if you think back, do you still remember how you initially got involved with AIJA? Was it someone who took you there, or was it your idea to join AIJA?
Well, I wish I could say I had it all planned out, but it's actually a coincidence that I joined. I was 1 year at my current law firm, and I was supposed to be promoted to senior associate. I was still an associate at that time. And one of the things on my target was to have an area of specialty, which was international employment. And basically the firm told me, do everything you can find around that topic because it's important that you develop an expertise. And so I think it was one morning I found a flyer on my desk which said, oh, there's a half-year conference in Chicago about international employment. So I thought, oh, that's really the perfect opportunity. I have family in Chicago as well because as an associate in the law firm, we didn't have anyone involved in AIJA at that time. I didn't really know how to approach that and say, hey, send me to the other side of the world. So I kind of came up with a plan of I'm going to visit my family. I'll pay for the plane tickets if you pay for the registration fee. And that's how it started. And so I remember being on that plane thinking, whew, that's going to be a lonely week because you never know. I mean, I was excited to attend my very first conference, but for all I knew, it was going to be a super boring experience. Nobody would talk to me. And the opposite was true. So I walked in and I had friends immediately. Even on the second day, I think people already said, Kato from Antwerp. And I felt home. And I think I came back with the opportunity to be a speaker in a seminar. So that's how amazing AIJA works and how open it is for anyone who joins.
I can imagine that it wasn't a lonely week at all. Are you still in touch with a lot of people you met in your first event?
Absolutely. Those are my closest friends, I must say, especially in the Labor Law Commission, because once you go for presidency, you venture out of your own commission a little bit and you get to know lots of people from other commissions. But my home in AIJA will always be the Labor Law Commission. And yes, I do have very frequent contact with many of them. And three of them are actually in the bureau. So myself, Caroline, and Stefan. So there you go. It's a powerhouse commission.
Very nice. So you're actually one of the people who found AIJA by herself, right? I mean, in a lot of firms, I mean, even for myself, it was the same back then that there was a partner who was at AIJA and told me about this association. Are you also passing that on now? That
yes.
Appreciation for the association and the opportunities that you won through your membership?
Yes, I would even say it's hard not to, because everyone sees how amazing it is and what it can bring you. And especially now in this role, I have a lot of visibility, so people see and are interested and curious. So yes, definitely. With our firm, we have, I think, 4 to 5 representatives who represent our firm at AIJA events. And so we split that a bit up among the departments and the events. But yeah, this is definitely a legacy because when I started, nobody was active in AIJA.
Maybe taking it a step away from AIJA for a bit. So personal networking, what role does it generally play in your career? I assume AIJA is not the only association or the only events that you go to build a network and relationships. How big of a factor is it in your business development strategy?
I personally think it's a huge factor. I think investing in relationships in a network is very, very important to do, because before you know it, as a lawyer, you're always so busy and there's always a next deadline and there's always a new file that lands on your desk. And so you might think at a certain point, like, I don't have time for this. I can't do non-billable networking events. Let me just put in as many billable hours as I can for the firm. And at the start of your career, that will definitely pay off. People will like you if you do lots of billable hours, but you have to make it a habit of doing something else outside of that too, because before you know it, you're so swamped with work, but you don't have a network. And if you ever want to make it to partnership in a law firm, it's hugely important to know people, get out there. And you start by networking with your peers. And in the beginning, it's a bit frustrating because obviously when you're very young, your peers are going to be very young and they're not going to be in positions where they can hand out work to you. So I remember when I started doing it first on a local level in Antwerp, I sometimes came back thinking, okay, this was another night where I chatted to many people, but I still don't have one case referred to me. So it's something that you need to continuously invest in. And the more you invest in it, the more of a habit you make and the more of a natural networker you become. And that's why I think AIJA is so important for law firms to know and to send associates to, because it is really a muscle that you train, and you're better if you train it from a young age. It will give you really a head start when you then make it onto bigger events later on when you're a partner. You just have this habit, and you can see that very, very well with all of the AIJA members who practice that regularly.
Now, building relationships, obviously, and the network is important. Now, these days, we have so many technical tools and technology that makes it easier to communicate with people around the globe. Also for AIJA members among each other, I guess that's an important factor also to stay in touch, and that also allows the association to grow even further beyond Europe and into other regions, right? But think about these personal networking situations. Why do you think, or what do you think is the difference between a personal networking situation? Why is it important that we still do meet in person even in 2025?
Because nothing compares. I would say that technology and online meetings are highly efficient. There's less chit chat. You cut to the chase. You know, when you do it with clients, you can feel that you can put many more hours of meetings in your day if you do it through Teams than you do for in-person meetings. So it's very efficient. It's, as you rightfully say, a way to keep connected and stay connected. Because when I joined AIJA, that was really before COVID. And so in my experience, at least, maybe it was not the case for others, but in my experience, it was really from one event to the other. And I didn't have much connection with the other members in between. I just went to a seminar, and then the next year I might go to another seminar, and that's where I see all of them. And we remember each other, obviously, but it's not like we were super closely involved in each other's lives. That's totally different now. Of course, now I have so many really good friends at AIJA as well, that are sometimes even, I mean, geographically not, but emotionally closer than people living next door. So we hear each other all the time. I give them updates about my family life and things I'm doing, also sharing struggles, etc. So online is definitely very important, and it's an enhancer. But the in-person events is, you know, that's where the real magic happens. It's you share an experience together. I remember when we were in Dubai, we had a dinner in the desert under a full moon, while it was announced that another lockdown was being started in Europe, which is something you never forget. And a shared experience like that really forges relationships. And it's all about relationships and the quality of those relationships if you want people to refer work to you. So yes, I really stand by my ground that you cannot remove the in-person events.
Yeah, particularly the social part of all these AIJA seminars, etc., is really hard to substitute through digital channels, I guess.
Yes.
That's definitely something that is hard to replicate. When you go to networking events, how do you make them successful? Do you have any networking secrets, something that you do or that you use to make these networking events a success?
Well, I don't know if it's a secret, but what I do, and that's a very deliberate strategy, is to make sure I always speak to people I don't know yet. because if you are very active in a network, in the first few years, you just kind of ride that wave, and it's easy because you'll always meet new people. You'll always get to know another person that you haven't met before. And so you just ride that wave. But after a while, as I said, you make very close friends. And of course, those close friends, you don't see them as often as you would want to. And so there's a tendency to spend more and more time with them. And then there's a tendency and a danger that I really try to stop for myself, is that you only spend time with them. So I really try to make it a point, and that was always part of my presidency, to talk to as many people as I can and get to know as many people as I can. I've made it a point to go to as many seminars. Seminars in AIJA are the events that are focused on one particular area of practice, 2 or 3. So it's a fairly small event where obviously you would only meet people from that practice area. That's what I try to do because I want to get to know more people and expand my network. And then I would say at 9 or 10 p.m., I allow myself the pleasure to indulge in my long-lasting friendships and spend time with those friends. So that's one thing. And then I guess on a more personal level, how you do it, I would say just make sure that you're genuine. It's nice to have an elevator pitch. It's nice to have some talking points when you go into a meeting, but make sure it comes across genuinely, because if the conversation leads you elsewhere, even if you end up talking about the person's dog or whatever, it's a genuine connection. And that's what people remember, because they're going to meet a lot of lawyers, and the lawyers are all going to more or less say the same. They're from a top-notch firm. They do top-notch work. They have fancy clients. And if you want to be remembered, just make sure it's a genuine connection. And then secondly, ask questions, be curious. We tend to talk a lot as lawyers. We like to talk a lot, but it's much nicer for your opponent in a conversation to actually be asked questions. And that is also something that actually makes you memorable, because it reminds people that you're interested in them and you don't just want to talk about
yourself. Listening, not only talking.
Yes.
Would you say it's the later you stay up at an AIJA event, the longer you party, the deeper the connection will be? Or is that something that has maybe also changed a little bit over the years, how you apply these the social scenarios at AIJA?
Well, I think you have to do both, honestly. I don't think it makes sense to only go to the academic part, because as I said, a shared experience is that what forges relationships, while the academic part is where you can show your expertise, you can participate in a panel, you can ask smart questions, have a good intervention. So I always tell first-timers that they have to do both, which is hugely tiring. If you're going to an AIJA event, you know that you're going to need a weekend to recover afterwards, but it's definitely worth it. So to answer your question very bluntly, no, don't skip either one of them. Do both, and do it with wholeheartedly.
Clearly, you've done quite well at AIJA, arriving at the presidency. When you think back at the Kato, wearing the first-timer badge, going to that first event, is there anything else beyond everything you just shared that you would tell her that as some sort of advice to when she goes to AIJA?
Yeah, don't be too self-conscious. I think, in the lawyer's world, especially when you're a young lawyer, you're not always taken seriously. And that might lead to the idea that, well, what I have to say is maybe not so interesting, or I'll just shut up, or I'll just, not participate in the conversation. And that's really, again, the beauty of AIJA, because people have that extra hurdle. They don't have it as much as AIJA, because they feel like they're actually connecting to someone who knows what it is to be a young lawyer and have that struggle. And when they talk about something, it's something they're really genuinely interested in, or what they're struggling with. So don't be too self-conscious. Don't be shy. Participate. And before you know it, you'll be a very interesting speaker, and people will really want to come and listen to you. So everyone has the potential to reach that.
So we all know AIJA is fun. There's an extensive social program at every event that there is. But is it really more than just fun and having a good time? Do you generate business from your AIJA contact? Is there some financial return that you can really attribute to your activity at AIJA?
Absolutely. I wouldn't be able to do it, and my law firm wouldn't allow me to do it if it wasn't the case. So I basically made some kind of business plan when I pitched the idea of going for presidency, with numbers and figures and what I thought would be possible. And it was a huge part of my business case to become a partner in my law firm. So yes, it does definitely give a return on investment. I think it's important to know that, of course, like any investment, you have to give it some time. You're not going to go to your first event and come back with a number of cases. I mean, it might happen. I know of people who went to their first event and came back with a referral. So it's not like it's impossible, but be patient. And I think if you seek out like 3 to 4 events a year that are interesting for you, do that consistently, keep going, and before you know it, it's going to be, first of all, paying back the participation in the event and also the costs related to hotels and travel. And then after a while, it's going to be significantly more. Absolutely.
Is that like the amount of events that you would suggest people participate in a year? So like 3 to 4 events. And how is it? Do you go to bigger events where there's more people, but it's a little bit more, it's less personal, or do you go to the more personal, smaller events where you have a chance to really meet people over a couple of days?
Yeah, everyone's free to decide that for themselves, of course, what they like best. My personal experience was I started out in the Labor Law Commission, which was really nice and cozy, and it felt less of a big thing to jump into. So it felt, very comfortable to get to know some people in that group. And then from there on, I ventured out into the larger association, got more involved in the management of the association, which I think is a very natural path that many people follow. If you ask me if you have to choose 3 to 4 events, yes, I think that makes sense just in terms of timing, because that means that every quarter you're there somewhere and people can find you. And then I would say make a mixture of things. Go to a seminar, go to half year, go to an annual, and you'll have the full AIJA experience.
Now, networking is not everything you do, obviously, to generate business and to position yourself as an expert in employment law. You do have a podcast called Employment Talks, and for those who are interested to subscribe, do it. It's on Spotify, for instance. You can find it there. Can you tell us a bit more about your podcast? How did you come about, and what is it about, and how is it going?
Sure. I launched it last year, I think, because first of all, I love podcasts, and we obviously do newsletters, and that's important. But I know from my own personal experience that I read so much for my work. I'm not going to be very happy to read another newsletter about a topic, but a podcast works really well for me because I listen to it when I travel, when I'm cooking, cleaning, driving, whatever. I thought, why don't we try that? I did some research and I realized that there aren't that many podcasts in Belgium, I want to say, about employment laws. So I figured that's an ideal way to put our expertise out there in the market, but do it in a way that is easily digestible for clients. So they each have an episode of 15 to 20 minutes, more or less, on a pressing employment law topic, something that was in the news, or something that's a change of law, something that's relevant, or maybe the time of year. I think our latest episode was about what happens when employees get drunk at Christmas parties, and this is a reason for this.
From an actual case or a personal experience, yeah, or
many cases actually. Okay. So I think we had 3 or 4, which then led us to say, oh, let's do a podcast about it. And one thing I do want to add is the variety of speakers, which was also one of the reasons I wanted to really make sure our entire team could contribute and learn how to speak on a podcast, learn how to do it, but also get their name out there in the market and make sure that young people are empowered to build their personal brand around a certain topic. We have junior associates who do lots of, for instance, private investigations. There's new legislation in Belgium that came out, and she has done several podcasts on that topic so that she can get her name out there, and then she's going to publish an article about it. So I think that's a really important way as well to do business development and marketing, is to put your knowledge out there and let them know that you're an expert, and that when people think about employment law in Belgium, I'd hope they think about me.
I'm sure they do. Is it a lot of effort to produce an episode of that podcast? Does it take you a lot of time, or is that something that is easier now as you progress?
So I have the easy part, which is I'm the host. So I basically ask all of my team members to prepare a script. Of course, I review it, and we discuss the topic beforehand. But I would say for them, it's maybe 1, 2, 3 hours work, It's useful not only for the episode. It really is nice to think about a certain topic once in a while from a different angle, because as a lawyer, you always approach it from a very specific question that a client asks you. But when you look at a topic, new legislation, for instance, from a critical viewpoint, what is, like a sensible comment here, what should be different, what can we change, what's interesting. That really teaches you a lot. So yeah, I think it's worth the investment. And the recording is super easy. I do it from all over the world, just over Teams. So yeah, it's an easy format.
Very nice. And maybe also speaking about other marketing tactics, what other marketing techniques are you applying? Or you mentioned that you drafted a really extensive business plan, and that AIJA obviously was a big part of it. But what other marketing channels or techniques are you using?
Well, one I haven't mentioned so far is giving seminars for potential clients. It's really, for instance, HR professionals who come to a seminar about false employment. So self-employed people who are actually treated as employees and should get all of the benefits as such. This is really a very evergreen topic where always many HR managers want to listen to a seminar about that. We do that frequently, and it's, again, a very nice way to put it in practice, because those people are not necessarily legally skilled. So they just have very practical business questions. They come for a reason. And that often leads to very good potential clients.
Coming back a little bit more to AIJA and your personal career at the association, at what point did you know, okay, hey, I want to become the president of this extensive young group of lawyers across the globe?
Yeah, that's actually a funny story, in the sense that it has a double layer. So my first idea was in Zurich, in the Congress in Zurich. I was kind of like, well, the funny story behind it is I wanted to have a fourth child, and my husband said, "Are you out of your mind? We're not making a fourth child." And then I thought, okay, fine. Then I'll just run for presidency of AIJA, because that sounds like a very cool project and I really want to do it. But I was a bit struggling with the imposter syndrome. I thought, well, I don't have what it takes. I was looking at everything that was happening there from a bit of a far angle, thinking, well, maybe one day I would like to do it. But it was certainly not as specific at that point in time. But then a few weeks later, someone who had been the president before called me and said, hey, it's my task to kind of make sure we have a good pipeline of people who are interested to do it. And you seem like you would be great at it, which is the push in the back I needed to actually go for it. So that's when I started talking about it to my law firm and to my family. And then from there, things fell into place.
So if AIJA is kind of your fourth child, do your children consider AIJA a sibling, or is it
they do
included in your family?
Yeah, it is very, very included in my family. That's a fun thing. My kids my two oldest are teenagers now. They're 10 and 11, and they ask a lot of questions about it. They think it's super cool that I speak in front of people, and they want to see little videos of that, and the travel, obviously. My youngest, he's 7, and he just wants to receive many presents. But AIJA definitely is a name that gets dropped around the kitchen table a lot. And they even refer to my AIJA Live and my AIJA Friends, and yeah. And they have met them. So that's also very nice, through the home hospitality a few times. So
they probably also have well rehearsed the pitch for AIJA, so maybe you can include them in your AIJA development in the future as well.
Exactly.
So maybe a last question from my side. If you guys watching and listening have any questions for Kato, please feel free to write them in the chat. But as a last question from my side, maybe for those AIJA members who are interested to follow your footsteps and are maybe also thinking about becoming the president of this association one day, what do you think is important for them to consider? What advice would you give them?
Well, I would recycle some advice that was given to me, which I think was very good advice from a former president as well, who told me you have to treat AIJA like your client, one of your clients. So if there is a deadline, make sure you meet the deadline. If you say you're going to do something, make sure you do it. If people rely on you. And I've always approached it that way. When I was a vice president of the Labor Law Commission, when I was on APC, I never put this off as, oh, it's only non-billable and I'll do it next week. It was, if it needed to be done, it was done that day. And that kind of creates a sense of pride. You're happy that you're contributing, but it also really shows to other people that you're reliable, and it doesn't necessarily have to be billable work. You just, you do what you say you're going to do. You show up. That's very important.
So there's no AIJA blueprint for the road to presidency that you can share with the public for others who want to follow that road.
No, there are many. I mean, you can get involved in the commission first, you can get on the extended bureau, you can be in the executive committee. The prerequisite according to our bylaws is that you have to be involved in some way before you can run for president, obviously. So you need to know the association a little bit, hold a position somewhere. But at AIJA, it's very, very easy to get there. So just put your hand up in a meeting, say, I want to volunteer, I want to try, and you'll have a role before you know it.
We did get one comment in the chat. Obviously, as we mentioned before, the association is active around the globe. One member from India felt like it's important to also mention that the association is active in India. So
absolutely,
obviously, there's people across the globe who believe in AIJA, who participate, and who are actually networking, using networking as an important way of their business development.
I was once contacted by someone from the Solomon Islands who had Googled Young Lawyers Associations, and she wanted to establish something at the Solomon Islands as well. So there you go. It really has a far reach. I offered to visit her, but that wasn't necessary.
Quite a trip, but I mean, AIJA gets you to new places. I think that's true for all the members who are active and are participating in the events.
For sure.
Kato, many thanks. I think that's all of it from my side. There will be other legal marketing talks upcoming. There is one on the 31st of January already scheduled with a German IP lawyer, Christina Kufo. We will be discussing LinkedIn posts, how to write good LinkedIn posts, something that is also not too easy and causes a lot of headaches to many lawyers across the globe. So if you're interested in how to write good LinkedIn posts and a discussion with Christina, please join us on the 31st of January. You find the event on LinkedIn. And obviously, Kato and I look forward to staying in touch with all of you. So feel free to give us a like here, subscribe to our channels, and connect with us on LinkedIn. And yeah, Kato, many thanks again for your time and your valuable insights, your willingness to share your experiences and your journey with AIJA and beyond. So thank you very much.
Of course, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And thanks to all of you who joined. I look forward to seeing you again soon and wish all of you a very good rest of your Thursday, and speak soon. Bye-bye.